and welcome back to season 2 of Remotely Speaking Up. We are excited to be back, and this season we have a lot more for you and a lot more amazing guests. We today are here really though just to kick it off and get a bit more comfortable. So I'm having a conversation with Mahalia today. For those who don't know Mahalia, she is singer, songwriter, author, extraordinaire. So I am not even giving her all her full titles. Mahalia, fill them in a bit more for me, please.
Well, you covered the first set. Along with that, I am also a dancer and a choreographer and a visual artist. Yeah. So just an all-round creative.
Yes, that's the word, creative, the all-encompassing word.
Correct.
Yeah, so we're just here to get a bit more comfortable. Mahalia is gonna be throwing some questions at me, so just you get an idea of what direction our podcast is going with, and you also get to know a little bit about me as well. A little secret for our fans, not so secret, but me and Mahalia went to St. Michael's. We went to school in Barbados together.
Yeah.
So shout out to all those St. Michael people. And I'm going to turn it over to Mahalia because you're the real host of this session. So
yes, it's time for me to take over.
Time for me to shut up.
Well, not for you to shut up, for you to answer, for you to be in the hot seat.
In the hot seat, let's go.
Because you always got other people in the hot seat or just having conversation.
As I like it. I won't like, as I like. If you know me, you know I'm an introvert. So I'd rather put people in the hot seat rather than...
Well, we're putting you on the spot today.
On the spot we go. I'll take it.
Alrighty, all right. So I know you have a following already, but like for people who don't know who Rochelle is, like, you know, just let people know who you are, like what your goals are, what your mission is.
Right. Who is Rochelle? That's such a big question. Where to start? Okay, so I am a lecturer. I am also a podcaster. I am a senior consultant, as well as the founder of Crowd Potential Consulting. I am completely obsessed with remote work, anything digital, anything technology related. I love flexibility more than anything in a job. So that's what really draws me to the concept of remote work. So I really started this podcast last year just to speak more about how remote work is challenging organizations and really to help organizations, not just organizations, but countries and also people to understand how we can work better remotely and what are the benefits we can get from it. Outside of that, what do? Anything outdoors, I like. Anything sweet, I like. I like cracking jokes. Mahalia would tell you.
I can tell you, I can attest to that.
Yes, they used to, I think, what was it that, I had so many nicknames. Smiley was one of them because I couldn't keep my teeth in my mouth. I remember this one. But yeah, I like tennis and anything sea related.
Got you. I mean, you gotta love the sea. You're from Barbados, right?
Yeah. So we're on an island, so yeah, we can't
true.
not like the sea. Yeah,
it's true.
Come to the territory.
Right. So you say you're a lecturer. Like, what do you lecture and where do you lecture?
Yeah, so I live in the UK. I moved to the UK about 11 years ago now. I can't believe it's been 11 years already. But I lecture in human resource management and international business. So that's my main area.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so you already said why you started the podcast, but like how did you become so obsessed with like the idea of remote working?
Yeah, it's strange. I think one of the things for me was coming to England. I was an expat, so I was working overseas. So that was a part of it. I was very intrigued by people's experience working abroad. And then the more and more, at first I was doing a master's, and then when I got into the PhD, then it really became on how expats mix cross-culturally. But then the real sort of love affair, I would say, that came in a trip to Thailand. I started this remote work project where I wanted to see, well, how were people's expectations changing? How were people's expectations of work changing? Because a lot of my students, for example, they kept saying, when I first started lecturing, students were saying, okay, I want to leave and I want to get a big job in GE. I want to get a placement or graduate scheme somewhere. And then probably 4 or 5 years later, I realized they were saying, actually, no, I want to start my own business. Can you point me in the direction where I can start this app and build that out? I want to work for myself. And I want to do that from a hut in Fiji. So I thought, okay, let me see what this is about. Let me see if this is a general trend. And I took this trip to Thailand where I lived as a digital nomad, so somebody working remotely or who is location independent. And just that experience, just working from a hammock, working from a hut, traveling across Asia, just the experiences. I had so many people during that time messaging me saying, aren't you supposed to be working? I put pictures up on Instagram of me on this research trip. And people kept commenting on it. You're supposed to be working. And I was so worried that they would get me in trouble. I'm like, I am working.
You're right. I'm working. I promise. I promise.
I promise I'm working. So it was that really kicked it off. When I came back, I was like, nah, this is the life I want.
This is the life. This is the life. I can imagine though. I can imagine. And I know that a lot of people were probably like jealous, like she can't be working for real.
So many, listen, one person reported me to my boss, and that's not a lie. Somebody reported me to my boss and said, Rochelle's supposed to be over there working, but I've seen her, she's not working. If it weren't for the results, my boss wouldn't have. So she was like, well, don't worry. I know you're doing your work. But I don't know. I guess you, Mahalia, you're a creative. So I guess you know what it's like to want your own free time and to work on your own hours. And for me, I never quite fit into, I've had a 9-to-5 job probably the first 2 years after I left university, my first degree. And let's say this is what, 10, 11 years onward, I've never had a 9-to-5 between that. It doesn't fit me. I don't like the 9-to-5 working style.
Yeah. And it's like people tend to feel like you need to be in a 9-to-5 job to be productive. But there are a lot of us out here who are a lot more productive outside of that environment. And clearly you're one of those people.
Just the distractions coming in the office, the small talk. I mean, I love to engage with people, but I'm easily distracted. So I don't like people distracting me while I'm working because I struggle to focus again. So my sweet hours are, I'm an early bird. I get up at about 5:30. And no. My sweet spot for working is 7 to about 11. I can do so much work during that time. Between 11 and 2, I won't even try. And that's not a lie. By 11, I'm thinking about lunch. And I get really creative with my lunch. And then after lunch, I'm sleepy. So from 2, I resume. And then I would probably continue sometimes even till 7, 8. That's just my working style.
Right. And it's cool. I think it's cool that you kind of have discovered what works best for you and what makes you more productive. But you see, like all of this story showing me that you was kind of like ahead of the curve because we know the world that we're in right now. So what actually went through your mind like when the world flipped upside down, really?
I will say this now. I would never wish a pandemic on anybody. I mean, I've lost friends during this pandemic. Quite early in the pandemic, I lost a friend. Quite recently, I lost another friend. I would not wish a pandemic on anybody. At the same time, the pandemic produced a lot of silver linings for me because the study I told you about, we published the findings of that in February 2020. And in March 2020, the whole world shut down and went remote. So all of a sudden, we started getting a lot of phone calls. We started getting a lot of offers to speak and consult. And that really led to a lot of opportunities, which is one of the reasons also why we started the podcast, because of a lot of the pain points we were hearing our clients say to us. So there was an element of it where, in a way, I won't lie. In my mind, I was like, I told you so. I won't lie. I thought so. I'm not going to lie. That's pure honesty. I'm guilty. But at the same time, I think I saw it coming for a while. So to me, it was inevitable. At the time, me and my business partner called it the invisible workforce and the silent revolution.
Okay. That's actually a pretty cool title. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. So, all right. So then who are you actually targeting, like with the podcast and with the message?
Yeah. So originally, like in our first season, we had 3 main targets and it was quite a broad reach. And really that broad reach covered half the globe just because the whole globe now had to work this way. So at first we were targeting people who were switching to remote work and who wanted to build a remote working career. Then we were also targeting governments. So for example, Barbados, and a lot of other Caribbean countries produced the welcome stamp to draw remote workers to Barbados. But that has a lot of implications. So having studied remote working communities and within countries where the governments made arrangements for those sort of welcome stamps, then I wanted to also address governments and what they should be looking to do infrastructurally. And then also we targeted businesses, because one of the issues that a lot of businesses were having was letting go of control, or even sometimes the digital technology side of it. What does it mean now to work remotely, and what are the implications for a business? So just to make that switch, a lot of businesses really suffered a shock in that. So that was, I can imagine. Yeah, and that was season 1. Season 2, because of we had a lot of really interesting conversations coming out of those topics, out of speaking to the guests we had on those areas. So this season, we really targeted more individual development, businesses as well, but I would say more business and individual development, because our focus now is more on personal and professional transformation. One of the things we found with the remote working and the resistance to remote working is that it was linked to a lot of traditional mindsets that were holding people back. Ideas, again, about how it is that we work or how we should work, or ideas about what type of career we should have. We have these, especially in the Caribbean, we have these very rigid opinions about the career paths that we should follow. And just the switch to remote work started to highlight a lot of things. For example, the need for control, the demonizing of failure. Like if somebody fails, how we treat that versus this really unhealthy approach to success. And I mean, success is good, but we have this, we can be very black and white with it. In those who are succeed are good, those who succeed are good, and those who fail are bad.
And the thing is too, to not to interrupt really, but like people kind of have, like you said, this kind of rigid idea of what success is and what failure is. And success is different for everybody, especially like being from a non-traditional type of career, especially here in Barbados. Like there are a lot of people who believe certain things are a success, and for me, or for another creative person, or even any other entrepreneur, like we define what our success is, and it's not the same from person to person. So
yeah, absolutely, I agree. And that's some of the things we're challenging, because one of the things that really influence that is our school systems, is our parental influences, the sort of business and more political influences at times. So what we really challenge in this new season is how we can overcome some of those traditional ideas that are holding us back, or that's making us very vulnerable in a disruptive environment. So look at, for example, a lot of persons who were laid off because some countries are very dependent on one particular industry. Or look at those who all their life, their mission is to just work as hard as they can in one job for 20, 30, 40 years and get a pension. But now all of a sudden your pension isn't guaranteed. All of a sudden that job isn't guaranteed. And we're taught to think, okay, that a lifelong job provides security, and actually, no, that's not the truth. That's not the truth anymore at all. So it's really now thinking, our conversations in this season is around, well, how can you better prepare people and equip them with the skills that they need to operate in a disruptive and digital environment?
Yeah, that's actually quite amazing. And I think it's going to help a lot of people see things differently, and sometimes all you need is a different perspective. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah,
so
that's what we hope.
Yeah, man, you are a pioneer. A pioneer, entrepreneur, all kind of things. But you say you're a consultant too, so like you could like just, I guess, enlighten the people a little bit about the consulting work that you do.
Yeah, so I target 2 audiences in my consulting. I do a lot of coaching and mentoring for individuals in a lot of the things that we just discussed in terms of preparing them for the real world of work. A lot of our young people, and I know I myself had this experience, when we get into the world of work, we experience almost a culture shock because it wasn't what we were expected. Because a lot of the times we focus on particular subjects, but not necessarily the softer skills that we need to navigate the working environment. So I work with a lot of young people and even older people about, well, how can you build the career you want? How can you successfully start a business? And I do a lot of consulting and helping people to start online businesses. So many people have ideas of what they would do online, but they just don't know how to start. They just don't know where to start, how to build their audience, how to even decide what it is that they want to have as a business. So that's what we help people with. On the other hand, in terms of businesses, we help businesses to better manage their remote working relationships. And that's from two sides, not just your full-time employees working overseas or working virtually, but also people who are working with you that are not full-time or not a part of your company. So for example, Mahalia, if somebody contracted you to work with an organization for 2-3 months, we help our companies to better manage those relationships and build structures, policies, and just general practices and techniques that make sure that everybody in the relationship has the best possible, the best possible work experience.
So you working with anybody in Barbados at the moment?
I work with a few people. I can't say any names.
You don't have to say it. You don't have to say it, but you know, seeing it, so like people like to say home drum beat first and all of that stuff. And I know sometimes from my experience, sometimes making connections in Barbados tend to be a little more challenging than it should be. So I just wanted to know if you were able to, you know, kind of breach that and work with some people here.
Yeah, luckily, yes. I get a lot of requests to work with people in Barbados, so I am happy for that. But you're very much right. It can be a very challenging context. I guess, like a lot of small countries, especially in the Caribbean, there is a certain networking element. It's a very close-knit community sometimes, and sometimes that can be hard to break into. But you even see an element of that in larger countries too. So I think sometimes just getting your name out there helps. So I get people who would call me or recommend me to a colleague of theirs, and maybe I do work for them, and then they recommend me to somebody else. So that's the word of mouth is probably the main way I get work in Barbados.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we know remote working means you could essentially work from anywhere.
Yeah.
Outside, inside, at the beach. So like you said, you like a lot outdoorsy stuff. You like the sea, like being at the sea, being at the beach. So when you're not working, like how do you find, like has it changed the way that you feel? Or that you experience those things that you like, seeing as how your office kind of is now in the same kind of environments that you would look to go to outside of the work environment, you know?
You know, that's such a good question. That's actually, I can't even remember getting that question before, but that makes a lot of sense now that I think about it. You know, the funny thing is, right, is that people have the idea of a digital nomad life as, oh yes, you're working from a hut, you're working from a hammock. And yes, sometimes that was the experience. You work from a boat or a yacht, whatever the case. But the usual everyday experience is you're in a beautiful country, if that's your preference. You're in a beautiful country like Barbados, for example. I recently returned from Barbados. I was there for 5 months working. And most of the time I was indoors working from the dining room table. So while let's say working from the beach is glamorous, working from some nice balcony overlooking the water is glamorous. In practicality, sometimes it doesn't work. You have the sun on the screen, so you can't see anything. So I remember the first couple of times I tried that just for some Instagram moments thinking, this is the life. But then realistically, I was tilting the screen forward.
To get rid of the glare.
I could see anything. I'm in a beautiful country, and then I spend most of the time indoors working, but at least you have the option to, when you're finished, just to pop out and go somewhere.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. It's good to enlighten people too that might think it's all glamorous.
No,
You
as
know,
soon
that's
as
something that I have to deal with too. Like there are things that people think is just glamorous, but they don't understand the reality of the practical situation or the logistics of certain things. So that's cool to learn about remote working as well. All right, so you transitioned into having this very informative podcast. So like what were some of the challenges you faced in creating it and getting it off the ground?
I think the biggest challenge for me was the time factor, because I have a full-time job still, which I enjoy, the lecturing. I have the consulting firm. And now with the podcasting, I was now working I was telling a colleague of mine, for example, that one day this week I got up, I worked from 5 a.m. and I signed off of the computer at 10 p.m. I drunkenly threw myself on the bed after that.
She means drunk with exhaustion, guys.
Drunk with exhaustion and nothing else. Yes. But it was very taxing, especially the first season, learning the technology, learning how to audio and video edit. And I mean, you can get people to do those things for you, but I wanted to, in that first season, I wanted to really get comfortable. And I love learning, so I wanted to learn the skill. I wanted to be able to say, oh, I can video edit, I can create a website, I can audio edit and create trailers. And so that I really enjoyed, the learning part of it. But it took so much time. It took a lot of time. So I think that was the hardest bit. The other hardest thing for me is I'm very introverted. People think that I'm extroverted. No, I mean, if I'm speaking to you, I'm fine. How I like to describe it is like, I like people in small doses. Mm-hmm. So I think there was a lot of nerves, and I still feel a lot of nerves, which is part of the reason why we wanted to start season 2 like this, because often I don't let people in. I concentrate on my guests to get the attention off of myself.
Yourself, yeah.
Yeah, but the issue with that is that I'm very determined to really spread the message and get that message of transformation and readiness in this age over on the podcast. And one of the things I said is that I really want to show up this season fully as myself and really fully give our audiences all of me as well as our guests. So it's still a struggle. It's a struggle in my day job. I'm a person that's very introverted, but always in a public speaking role. Right. So every single time I'm nervous. Every time before I turn on this camera, I'm nervous. So it's always like, okay, get everything in place. Make sure everything is settled. Okay, not working. Okay.
I can relate. Yeah. So but that's very powerful though. That's a very powerful thing for people to know too about you, because they will see you, and because you're such an expressive person, they'll just think that, oh, Rochelle is very expressive out there, you know. Oh, she started a podcast, she out there, but like is a powerful thing, and it's empowering for you to have been able to be determined enough to get past those challenges and also to do it on your terms.
I think as I reflect on it, I'm proud of myself. I'm happy to pat myself on the back with that. But I won't lie, it took a lot of encouragement. I have some really supportive colleagues, some really supportive other consultants that I work with. I'd love to mention Julie Turney here and Ron Johnson, because they were the ones that pushed me to podcast. They said, you need to start a podcast, start a web series or a podcast. And I was like, I hate video. That's not me. And usually when I post content, it was always messages, but they were like, no, get yourself out there. So, I mean, if it weren't for those encouraging voices, I wouldn't probably been on this screen here now.
I gotcha. So now that you've said that, there are a lot of podcasts out there that are audio only. What made you decide, well, I can do video too?
You know what? I don't even know. I like video, but also because I use Zoom, and Zoom gives you both audio and video files. And to me, when I look back at the video files, I'm like, well, these are perfectly good videos. Why throw them away? Why just delete them? We might as well use them. And even in general, I know there are probably a lot of other people like me who learn very visually, who are attracted more to visual things. Like all during school, I rather learn by seeing something rather than just listening. So I like, even sometimes when I go over the episodes to reflect on them, I prefer to watch them rather than listen. So it's just more options for our audience, but also it increases accessibility. So for example, we can have, for those who might be hearing impaired, the videos have the captions at the bottom. So all season 2, all of our videos will carry the captions.
I actually noticed on the in the email you sent out with the flyer, you also had the description of what is on the flyer as well. And I thought that's very cool for accessibility.
Yeah, I learned that from a digital nomad who, because she's a real trailblazer when it comes to increasing accessibility and breaking a lot of myths around disability. So it was through her that I learned that from, because she has a podcast page, an Instagram page called Blindish Latina. She's seeing and hearing impaired. Not fully, but she has challenges there. And a lot of her posts, if you on Instagram, she's telling you about all of the myths that people have about disabled people, and she's telling you how to make things more accessible. So that was one of the things I learned from her.
Okay. All right. So we talked about what has been challenging with the getting podcast off the ground, and what do you like the most about being, hosting a podcast?
My guests are incredible. Just to even have you on this podcast. I mean, we went to school ages ago. My gosh, I feel old saying that. But it's even just good to have these conversations, to meet people in a different space, to hear about what they do, or to just have these general reflective chats. I really enjoy. Next week's episode is going to be a mind-blowing one. It still is for me, because I got to interview my celebrity business mentor. I reached out to him for to be on my podcast, and he actually said yes. I was most shocked. So to have that conversation, like after that conversation, I called people, and it was just like, I just spoke to Paul Brunson. Oh my God. Talk to me. And then he sent me a compliment, because I told him thank you for agreeing, and then he sent me a voice note saying, hey, I think this was great. And I was like, you just said that. I had a full freak out. So it's really good to get to speak to just really dynamic and interesting people, and just to hear about really interesting things that people are doing.
Yeah, that's very cool, man. So people need to look out for that episode. That's going to be mind-blowing. But just generally, they need to look out for the podcast in general. So like, just let everybody know where they can find it, how they can see it or hear it.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a podcast handle on Instagram. It's called Remotely Speaking Up, all one word, Remotely Speaking Up. We have a podcast YouTube channel as well called Remotely Speaking Up, and that's where we put these videos. So the videos are the extras, the runoffs, but we put the full videos on YouTube, so you can watch it there as well. And we usually post any additional content on my Instagram page, which is Dr. Rochelle Haynes. I think that's about, and my website, my consulting website, we have a podcast page. So if you want to see previous content or upcoming guests, so all of the guests for Block 1, we have already on my website, which is www.crowdpotential.co.uk.
That's awesome. Any thoughts of doing an audio only on like Apple podcasts or Spotify or anything?
I did not even say it. Yes, so we are on Apple, we are on Spotify, we are on Listen Notes, we are on Google Podcasts, we are on Anchor FM. On most podcast channels, you will find us, but the main ones are Anchor FM, Apple, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. So yeah, you can find Castbox is another one. So Anchor just pushes it out to all of the different podcast channels. So if you want to listen, just hit Anchor or just search for us in Apple iTunes, you'll find us.
So you got a lot of options. So yeah, like everybody now has gotten to know Rochelle. Rochelle's been in the hot seat
In the
today.
hot seat. It's been hot. Oh yeah, it's been good to be here. And I mean, I know for you, Mahalia, as well, that you also have your own experience with like the digital and having to like pivot in this sort of setting as well.
Yeah.
So, yes.
It's been a ride, I could tell you that for sure.
Yeah.
But it's been very interesting, and just like you, the pandemic and the lockdown scenarios have had a lot of silver linings for me creatively, and then also like just seeing what I could accomplish and what I could achieve in a different sort of environment, and realizing that there were things that I was craving that I wasn't getting the way that the world was working before. So I've been able to kind of capitalize on those differences.
Yeah.
It's still been a challenge, especially in the entertainment, music, creative businesses.
Yeah.
Especially here in Barbados, where now that we are kind of out of lockdown, but the world has not reverted to the way it was. The things that have been suffering have been the entertainment industries, the event industries, and we really have had to do a lot of things differently. But it's been interesting. It's been an interesting experience.
Yeah, I imagine. I know like a lot of people have been having challenges with the events that you would usually have, but now when you try to put those digitally, sometimes you don't find the response is the same. So I know now creators you've gotten really creative in terms of like, no pun intended, in terms of now coming up with some really interesting online events. But I know it gave you a chance also to publish your book.
Yeah, which is something that I never foresaw. I never thought of myself as an author in any right, but because I have always thought of myself as 1,000% Bajan, it kind of just organically happened. And I was very grateful for the time to step back and be able to run that through my brain and bring it into reality with the help of the NCF and their COVID grant, because that's what really was able to get me to do it in 2020. So very, very grateful for the time, space, and the NCF grant.
That's amazing, because I used to see your posts all the time about Bajanisms, and I always thought, why should I just put all of these in a book? It would be amazing to read this in a book. And I know I introduced it to her because I'm in a lot of digital nomad groups, like Welcome Stampers who are in Barbados, and in like some groups in Thailand. And I put the book in the group, and everyone was like, where can I get this? Where can I get this? So then I put your number in the group. And I know some people said that, they thought it made an excellent gift for their partners. They wanted to teach people more about Barbadian culture. So there was such a demand for it.
So thank you for that. Somebody messaged, like, after you said, oh, I can put your information in this group, somebody messaged me like 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
So it was very cool.
I spoke to a lady this week that was saying, oh, thank you for putting me in touch with her. She was so lovely. And she said she got it as a gift for her husband. It was the perfect gift for his birthday. So no, I know people appreciated that. Yeah. But thank you so much, Mahalia, for joining me, for putting me in the hot seat. I might throwing questions at you. I managed to put you in it for a bit, not the intention.
A tiny bit.
That was a whole strategy there.
Well, thanks for having me. Like, I'm not often the person interviewing somebody, so yeah, thanks for this experience.
No, this was nice. Thank you. Just thank you for honoring our podcast. Thank you for coming through. So just before we go, if you want to know more about Barbadian culture, about how Bajans speak, and Bajan is another word for Barbadian for our international audience. And I hope that you really enjoyed Mahalia's really Bajan accent. But if you want to know more about Barbadian culture, especially if you're thinking of coming over on the welcome stamp, the 12-year work visa, then make sure you go on, you can find your book on Amazon, right?
Yes, you can. You could actually look on bajanisms.com. And it'll like send you, there's a portal page to wherever you can get it. And you can get the paperback version or the ebook version. So, and you can look us up on Instagram at Bajanisms.
Sweet. So that book again is Bajanisms, Bajanisms. Yeah, got it, right? Got it.
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Hopefully our audience got it too. So if you want to go to that, if you want to check that book out, just check out Bajanisms.com, go on Amazon.com and you'll find more. But thank you, Mahalia, for joining us.
You're so welcome.
Such a good way to kick off the episode. And I really, it's been a good way to open up as well, I guess. So I appreciate that. I don't think I could have done it on my own, to be honest. So thank you for being an excellent wing woman.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and thank you to our audiences. Continue to join us for Remotely Speaking Up Season 2. And one of the things that we're going to be doing in this season as well is we're going to have a giveaway in the 5th episode. So every 5 episodes, in that episode at the end, we will give a question which will direct you where to give your answer so you can get the giveaway for that period. So be sure to join us each week. Next week is super excited. So check out our Instagram page for more and enjoy the show. This has been Remotely Speaking Up. Thank you and see you next week. Bye.